On a hot October night, an Australian adventure takes a sudden and terrifying turn. When 7 unsuspecting tourists enter dangerous waters, and a moonlight swim turns into a desperate search for a missing friend. How could a holiday end so suddenly and so violently? What are the clues? Where will the answers be found? Solving this mystery requires 2 teams of behavioral and forensic experts. These seasoned detectives will reopen the scene and uncover evidence that will shed new light on the tragic incident. They will reveal who is the hunter and who is the hunted. A full moon rises over the outback in northern Australia. 10:30 p.m. A group of backpackers is enjoying a refreshing dip in an idyllic waterhole. Their laughter echoes out across the surface of the water. When suddenly, one of the swimmers disappears below the surface of the water. Who or what is responsible? And will the missing friend ever be found?
Miss Isabel.
Some of the answers will emerge only months later in a Darwin courtroom. The backpackers are swimming at night in the middle of one of the most remote and untamed places on Earth. Kakadu National Park, a 5 million acre wilderness reserve on the northern tip of Australia. The young travelers are part of a tour group consisting of 5 British men, 2 Dutch cousins, and 2 German sisters, Valerie and Isabel von Jordan. They are all here to enjoy the natural wonders of the Australian wilderness.
Kakadu was awesome. This place was just like a different planet almost, like just with the scenery was breathtaking. It was a place like no other.
But for the von Jordan sisters, the natural world provides a special refuge from violence. Just 10 days earlier, they have had a narrow brush with death in Bali, Indonesia.
It's huge, it's scary.
A terrorist bomb rips through a Bali discotheque crowded with foreign backpackers. It's a club the sisters had visited just 2 days before. More than 200 young people are killed, most of them foreigners.
From my understanding, it's Isabel and her sister had come to Darwin as a direct result of the bomb. It had gone from a holiday paradise into just like a nightmare.
But their troubles have just begun. Once safely in Darwin, they start asking around about trips to Kakadu National Park and sign on with Gondwana Tours, a company that caters to backpackers. Leading the group is a 46-year-old Australian, named Glenn Robles.
Something else. Rainy season.
The tour guide seems eager to show the young people a good time.
We just wanted to just experience as much as we could within the 4-day trip. We didn't want to be held back from much, and we went to see and do everything.
One night, the young people decide to go for a late-night swim in a waterhole, a short distance from their campsite. Approximately 30 minutes later, one of the tourists is missing. In one of the most baffling and disturbing incidents ever to strike the Australian outback.
Get out! Go! Get out! Get out of the water!
It was a beautiful spot, though.
Oh, it's lovely, yeah. Like I said, this time of day, it's great.
Chief Ranger Greg Ryan has been at Kakadu National Park for 22 years.
It's safe to swim.
He was one of the first to respond to the scene the night of the disappearance. Charlie Manolis is a scientist with Wildlife Management International.
So where are we heading now, Greg?
Down the sandy billabong.
Yep.
This is exactly the route that the tour group took to the water. Moved past this tree.
And were they all together, the group? Had they come down as a
They were
group?
all together, yep. There was a total of 10 people in the group. Two members of the group didn't enter the water. They stayed out here. They lit a fire. One person was playing a didgeridoo.
So there would have been
Situation.
a fair bit of talking, presumably, and yeah, like most tour groups, everyone having a good time.
Yeah, they were in high spirits. Around about 10:30 at night.
Okay,
They
so it was
actually
late.
arrived at the beach.
Excellent.
Yes, it was late.
No. Well, it would be pretty inviting that time of year. It'd be hot and sweaty. That looks so good, doesn't it?
7 members of the group entered the water here. 2 or 3 stayed on the water's edge. The other members of the group moved further out into the billabong.
Yeah.
We was all swimming in the water for about 5 and 10 minutes. Well, we was all enjoying ourselves, we was splashing, creating a lot of noise. And it seemed perfectly safe, it was not a problem. It was only a few metres from the shore. Everyone was happy, everyone was enjoying it. It was a really good night.
The tourists swim gratefully in the night air. Some start pulling others under the water.
People were swimming underwater, going up to like someone else in the group and grabbing their legs and pulling them underwater, and then everyone would come up laughing, and we were just larking around like people do in the water.
There was 3 people swimming about 10 metres from the shore. Myself and another member of the group were probably about 4 metres from the shore. And then that is when it happened. I was watching 3 members of the group, and suddenly Izzy just disappeared. She just disappeared under the water.
Isabel Von Jordan vanishes. At first, the others are confused about what exactly is happening.
The whole incident took place in probably a second. It was just very quick, but for me it was like in slow motion.
Is it possible she has suffered a cramp and just gone under? Not likely. Humans struggling in calm water typically have enough time to shout for help. Witnesses at this scene recall no cry for aid.
All I remember is I remember that 1 minute that she was there, and then all of a sudden, she was gone. And there was like a sound of a deep thudding sort of splash. And yeah, she was gone.
Some believe it is part of the game they were playing.
I thought he was playing a joke. Didn't really think much of it.
But this time, it is no joke.
After maybe 10 seconds, she still hadn't surfaced. 20 seconds, she still hadn't surfaced.
Get out!
James Rothwell is the first to sound the alarm.
Come on, get out!
I realised then what had happened. That's when I was like, everyone just needs to get out.
Within 30 seconds of the disappearance, everyone is on shore, except for one.
Easy.
So we all sort of come together and started shining a torch on top of the water to see if we could see any sign of Izzy.
Izzy.
Me too.
People were shouting her name, but
Isabel.
there was no sign of her.
Izzy.
What has happened to Isabel Van Jordan? It isn't long before flashlight beams reveal a terrifying clue. When Isabel Van Jordan disappears below the water, the two swimmers closest to her have a chilling idea of what has happened.
I remember feeling something hit my leg, and it hit my leg hard. And then I came up and there was just me and Isabel's sister. And she looked at me and she's asked me, "Where's Izzy?" It was like a shiver down my spine, because then you suddenly realise what's happened.
Once out of the water, they shine a light looking for their friend and spot something else. Something disturbing. The glowing red eyes of one of nature's most fearsome predators. Not long ago, crocodiles were scarce in Australia. But in the 1970s, the country passed laws protecting them. And today, there are an estimated 80,000 living in the Northern Territory. Kakadu National Park, where the backpackers were swimming, is famous for its crocodiles. The crocs of Kakadu are big business. Tourists from all over the world travel here for a chance to see the predator in its natural environment. But attacks on humans have been remarkably rare. Accounts of the few that have occurred are told repeatedly on tourist boats that cruise the waters in and around Kakadu. The horrifying story of Val Plumwood is one of the most popular.
One of the more horrific attacks I've ever heard of, folks, and read about, is a woman out here in the East Alligator River out in Kakadu National Park. Went canoeing up and down the river. And well, she was canoeing along and a large crocodile come up and started bumping the side of the canoe.
Afraid that the crocodile will capsize the canoe, Plumwood decides to try something desperate. She stands up in the canoe and leaps for a tree branch. This is probably a mistake. Crocodiles are excellent jumpers. They use their powerful tails to thrust themselves out of the water. Some can leap the entire length of their bodies. They do this for one purpose: to capture food.
I leapt, and as I'm almost in mid-leap, it came up out of the water and got me in mid-leap right between the legs. My initial feeling was one of disbelief. You know, this couldn't be happening, it was a dream. It was just a flash. A flash of teeth and water that pulled me down under the water and spun me around in this severe death roll. It pushes the water into your lungs. I really felt like I was being drowned.
The death roll is a crocodilian signature killing technique. It's used to confuse prey, to neutralize resistance, and to aid in the croc's ultimate goal, to drown the victim. The animal that grips Val Plumwood in its jaws quickly spins her into two separate death rolls. But suddenly, they stop. Crocodiles are capable of rapid bursts of energy, but the huge predators have one weakness. They tire quickly. Lactic acid, the chemical that causes cramps in human muscles, floods a crocodilian's bloodstream following a power surge. Muscles freeze, forcing the giant reptiles to rest while oxygen returns to their system. This respite allows Plumwood to get away, but only for a moment.
And I pulled myself away, and it came and got me again round the thigh.
Val Plumwood endures a third death roll in the jaws of a crocodile. But suddenly, the croc tires again and must rest. Plumwood has one more chance to escape.
Instinctively, without thinking, I realised I could climb the mud bank by jamming my fingers in the mud and scrabbling with my feet, and I did that and I got to the top and stood up. I couldn't believe it. I thought I was virtually certain to die.
Val Plumwood's severe leg injuries keep her in the hospital for weeks. Her story is proof that in certain rare cases, an attack is not always a death sentence. But why couldn't the crocodile complete its kill? Plumwood had two things in her favor. One of them was the size of the crocodile. The crocodile that attacked her was estimated to be 9 feet long, half the size of a fully grown male. In the 15 years between the attack on Val Plumwood and Isabel Von Jordan's disappearance, the crocodiles in Kakadu continue to grow larger. And then there is the scene of the attack itself. Plumwood's life was spared in part by the shallowness of the water.
The water wasn't deep enough for it to hold me under. So if the water had been even a foot deeper, I think it would have been able to drown me.
For those reviewing the Von Jordan incident, the depth of the water is a key consideration.
Let's go and have a look where it happened, mate.
Righto, I'm cutting.
Okay, cut your motor. Okay, well let's just see exactly how deep this is here, mate. My guess is that it falls off very, very rapidly from the side there. Well, okay. We're on bottom there. Okay, we're about 5.5 metres here, but this must just go straight off.
Yep.
And without a doubt, he would have been able to cruise straight through there, unseen. They wouldn't have even known that he was there.
Water 20 feet deep, as it is in the Billabong, where the tourists were swimming, is ideal for big crocodiles. They submerge by expelling air from their lungs, shifting their internal organs and letting their weight take them down. Here, they move unseen and unheard by potential prey. By tucking their legs and whipping their tails, they can motor teeth first through the water at speeds approaching 9 miles per hour. The fastest human swimmer tops out at 5.